You're listening to Finding the Truth with Myke Hideous.
I'm not sure if everybody are familiar with the Houthis. I don't think the Houthis are getting
much. Didn't they tour back in the 60s with the Who?
Could be a front band for the Who. I mean, that sounds like a niche. I mean, damn, that could be good, but it'd have to be a chick band, I think, for the Vita.
Ladies and gentlemen,
anyway,
the Houthis.
Let's not get that. I might be called out as being sexist, but in either case, the Houthis, unfortunately, is a large group of individuals in Yemen. And if you're not familiar with Yemen, it's this country right on the corner of the Red Sea.
Another terrorist state.
It is a terrorist state, sadly. So it is a state of anarchy, to actually describe it better for people in the West. But if you go into Yemen, you better have some security. And if you look mighty white, as Myke and I do, you definitely want to have, you're definitely going to want to have some security or sidearms or anything else that basically tells people that you're in charge. Regardless, the Houthis are not getting that much press. And what they have effectively done, they are an extension of Iran, and they are getting funded by Iran. They're being given missiles and drones, and they are attacking shipping in the Red Sea. Now, I'm sure the Red Sea rings some bells if the Houthis don't, and the Red Sea being that body of water that Moses famously parted way back when. And nowadays we have the Houthis actually threatening transit through the Red Sea. So this is actually a big deal in the way that it is causing everything to become more expensive, depending especially what's coming from that corner of the world. But essentially all shipping is not going down the Red Sea right now, which means the Suez Canal is not actually receiving as many ships as usual. And what do they have to do? Well, unfortunately, the alternative between going through the Red Sea and the Suez Canal is going around the Cape of South Africa, which is a much longer journey and costs so much more money, for the ship itself. And it's just absolutely ridiculous that essentially everything is becoming more expensive because of this action. And the one thing that's glaringly obvious is that the United States, the military, the naval force that's sitting in the Red Sea is doing nothing really to stop it. They're shooting down.
I wonder who made that decision.
Well, the Navy gets their orders from the commander-in-chief, as far as I'm
That's why I said that.
So
let me make a comment, if I may. Let me make a comment.
Please.
First and foremost, as I just mentioned, in sarcasm, no kidding, we're not doing anything. Boy, I'll tell you, I got to tell you, it's a good thing that America doesn't have me as a president, because I'd kill everybody.
Ooh, careful. Dude. Not on both sides, right? You're only the other side.
Not both sides. Only the other side. But if you looked at us wrong, I'd blow you to fucking hell. Iran would be the first target that I'd hit. I would turn that place into a glass parking lot, and I'd call it USA East, and I'd turn it into a mall. That's what I would do, because these people are scumbags. And if I may just backtrack for a second, the whole reason October 7th happened with Israel is because remember the Arab, the Arab Accord? The Abraham Accord?
Yeah,
remember
exactly.
that contract?
Abraham's.
Okay.
Yep.
Basically, what that was Israel had, and this was all set up by Donald Trump, okay? But you didn't hear about it in the fucking news because they didn't want to talk about it. When he created the Abraham Accord, the Arab countries, except Iran, were all going to have peace with Israel. It was going to be a great thing. Iran knew that if they signed the contract and everything went through, that Iran would not have the power that it has now. So what did they do? They paid money to the pieces of shit in hummus to do what they did to the innocent Israelis, men women, and children, the horrific things that they did, in addition to video recording all of it so that they can brag about it to their mullahs. And that's how the Abraham Accord fell apart, because once the scumbags from Gaza attacked the innocent Israeli people, they didn't want Israel to strike back, because everybody knows, yeah, the terrorists, they can throw their bombs here and there, bing bang boom, but Israel, they could fucking blow their entire town to smithereens. So that's the difference. The Arab countries then were like, oh no, you can't you can't retaliate on them. The same with our president corpse. Don't do anything. Just don't. Don't. That was his word. Don't. So that's why everything fell apart. That is what happened. That is the reason October 7th took place, because Iran knew they would lose power to Saudi Arabia, to Jordan, to blah, 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 and then a couple other Middle Eastern countries. And ultimately, that was what started. Now you've got these idiot Houthis, Houthis, Hootie and the Blowfish. What is it?
Exactly. Yeah, they're from them.
If I were president, these countries would be annihilated. And don't think it's me. I'm not a bad person. I don't want war. It's these Middle Eastern countries that continually try to attack us and then hide behind women and children and hospitals and schools and so forth. And then they wonder, oh, you blew up a hospital. Oh, well, maybe if you didn't have fucking howitzer on the rooftop, maybe we wouldn't have blown it up. Hello, Kat.
Not to mention, it is so much of a war of opportunity. If Iran didn't have the money to give Hamas, then they would not have attacked.
Oh, but we did. We gave the money to Iran. We gave it. So the taxpayers paid for their fucking money, their fucking weapons to do what they're doing, because our president gave them $60 billion.
Well,
makes you want to.
I mean, it depends on how you want to break it down. Just to point out to the audience real quickly, there was a $6 billion that was given to Iran last year in exchange for 6 American hostages.
What?
As well as we gave
God.
up 6 Iranian hostages, I think 2 of which decided to stay in the United States. They didn't even go back to Iran. That's an interesting.
Oh, what does that tell you? What does that tell you?
Yeah, what does that tell you? Oh, thanks for releasing me, but I don't really want to go home. But in either case, so you have the scenario is just more than horrific. The fact that getting back to the Houthis, honestly, you brought us down some interesting points and how things are being funded through, to Iran. But Iran is giving their money to other proxies. That's the idea of a proxy war. They're giving them their money to another entity so they can do their dirty work for them. And it's just more than appalling that while we have actual American hostages that have been there for 222 days as of today, and
President Corpse doesn't care. He doesn't care.
Doesn't care, and he's not doing anything about it. And meanwhile, because of the Houthis,
of course not.
Most transit and traffic for cargo and for fuel and other things that are important to everybody in the world cannot go through the Red Sea. And he's not empowering our Navy and our military assets to do something to stop basically these guys that are just idiots with weaponry. They don't even know how they work. They just know how to push the button to make them fly. And they're not doing anything to stop them. And, honestly, I've heard it more than enough times. I got to point this out there, Mike. If they would actually cut this out, if the U.S. military would actually stop this activity by the Houthis in the Red Sea, then the price of gas in the U.S. would go down. Okay, the price of many things would go down, because then transit could go through there. If they had to go around the Horn of Africa, it's going to cost a lot more for everything.
When you have a weak pussy for a president, who doesn't do anything and claims that he does when he really doesn't. There's a saying that we all know. If you're a true American and you understand how things truly work for a free society, freedom does not. First of all, freedom does not come free. It comes at a cost. Secondly, peace through power. There was a point in time when America was respected, but we're not respected now. We're not respected now. In fact, all our enemies are laughing at us, and they're getting away with bloody fucking murder. And it really makes me sick, because if I were in charge and any of these terroristic scumbags from these countries tried to do what they're doing, I would unleash holy fucking hell on them. But that's just me, folks. This is just an entertainment show. I don't know what I'm talking about.
You do know what's happening today, as the date you gave as May 16th. Apparently, Putin and President Xi of China are meeting today in China.
Goody.
That cannot be a good sign. It cannot be a good sign, the fact that Xi and Putin are hanging out together, trading stories, talking about whatever, while literally they know Joe Biden is president corpse. You know,
sleeping. He's taking a nap.
I think he's more worried about the boom booms in his diaper and getting his ice cream at dessert than he is about what's really going on in the world.
Of course he is. He's a liar, he's a hypocrite, and he's full of shit. And we all know it. All right. Thank you, Houthis. Go to hell, and I hope you all die. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that? I didn't mean to say that. No, I didn't mean to say that. I meant to say, I hope you all cry. That's what I meant to say. You see, welcome back, folks. I'm Myke Hideous.
Hello, Mr. Hideous. All right, guys.
Okay, let's turn it over to Professor Z now. Go.
Thank you, sir. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Professor Z, and I'm going to give you a segment that we call By the Numbers. And so I've got some numbers to share with you. That's and share with Myke, of course. Get your feedback on it. That you may not, very few of you have probably heard these things. So I'm going to give you some numbers on the basics of transporting, or how much fuel it takes to transport stuff across the ocean. And I'll speed it up and give you, basic premise here. It is much better to produce your products and also produce, your energy, your oil or whatever, the gasoline locally and in your own country than it is to import it. So here are some basic numbers from rough calculations. This is how it goes when it goes to how much fuel does it take to move a cargo ship. So basically, to move a cargo ship, use this figure, medium-sized container ship, 600 feet to 200 meters long, going at a moderate speed of 15 to 18 knots, which is, fairly fast in nautical terms, just to throw it out there. If you're cruising at 15 to 18 knots, that's almost your maximum speed unless you're something top secret. And under an average conditions would burn around 30 tons per day, which is around 150 barrels of oil, or 7,000 gallons, 30,000 liters of oil. And it's not necessarily oil. It's something that's actually called, and Myke and I were talking about, it's not diesel fuel. It's something that's actually known as bunker fuel or heavy fuel oil. So if you're
which costs more than regular petrol.
Most definitely. I'd have to look up the current price, but it's definitely something you're not going to buy at the pump. So, your average cargo ship.
I could just see a cargo ship pulling up to a gas tank. Fill it up.
You watch those little tanks just crinkling and just get sucked dry of everything drop that's in them. So
Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it was funny. I had to mention
it's
that.
very funny, but it's funny but realistic. Cargo ships cost a huge amount of money to move products across the ocean, and we are literally
If I
living.
may just interrupt you for 1 second, if I remember reading about something like this, and I want to say what I read, it cost between $20,000 and $30,000 just to fill the fuel tank of a cargo ship.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude.
Go
That's got
on.
to be per gallon or per 100 gallons or something like that.
Maybe,
The amount of
maybe
fuel, depending on where they need to cover, they're going to burn, like I just said, it's going to be 30,000 liters a
gallons,
day,
liters, right, right,
or 7,000
a day.
gallons a day.
And
So, I
and
mean,
and as we were saying before, just think of the amount of pollution compared to all the combustible engines and cars that are on the road, trucks and buses and cars, motorcycles, etc., etc. Compare that with a ship. Think about that.
or think about it just from the perspective of an oil tanker. Here you have an oil tanker, and I haven't looked up the numbers on this one, to be honest. But I mean, your average oil tanker, contains a shit ton of oil. And, how much fuel does it take to transport that oil across the ocean? Why would a country want to buy oil from Saudi Arabia or any other country when you might possibly be able to find it at home? It's got to be cheaper to find it at home than to import it. And I'm sorry for all the green people out of there. There is nothing better than a drop of gasoline has far more energy potential than your average day in the sun for a solar cell. So there's no
And
comparison to.
and may I add, excuse me, the corpse in office has also been, if I'm correct on this, and I'm pretty sure I am, they are buying crude oil from Venezuela.
Yes.
And the Venezuelan oil or crude oil that they produce is so dirty compared to the oil that we in America can produce and filter out and clean so that the emissions are cleaner compared to the crap from Venezuela.
You
Why
are
is it
correct.
like that? Because Venezuela is a country that has gone to complete hell. That has become a shithole. Sorry for the people that live down there. Those who have escaped and come to America, you ask one of them what it's like to live down there in a country that has gone from a free country to a communist country or a socialist or whatever you want to call it, Marxist. And they'll tell you, just like the ones who escaped from Cuba and come here, they will, and North Korea and all the other communist countries that are out there, they all come here. Why? Not because we're racist, not because we're a terrible country, but because we offer freedom and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. But don't try to tell that to a college student because they'll tell you you're a racist, white supremacist. So don't bother. So
Yes,
all I'm
sir.
trying to say is that the Venezuelan oil that America is now buying from, um, it's dirty gas. We have it right under our feet, so to speak, and they refused to dig and get the oil, and it's all on principle because they don't want to pollute per se. But it's okay to pollute in Saudi Arabia and Venezuela and Russia and all the other countries that we buy oil from. That's okay. That's all right. Carry on.
Getting back to one of my mantras is that reality is perception, and so as long as the administration can persuade people of this certain persuasion or perception, then they will be happy to deal with it. But it's interesting how you point out Venezuela and their dirty oil. It is so indicative of communist Marxist societies to not produce things efficiently because it
Mm-hmm.
costs more to do that efficiently. So I'll have to
Mm-hmm.
fall back to any of you that maybe have watched Chernobyl on HBO. It was a beautiful 8 part series which really showed you what happened in Chernobyl. And the overruling reason why Chernobyl happened was because the communist government there did not spend the money on the proper things and the proper training to make sure that it was a safe reactor. And it
What a
blew up one
surprise.
day in their face because, of course, the people on the ground had no idea what they were controlling compared to the people that were in control and the people who were actually educated on what the hell that thing was, a nuclear reactor. It's good to have the smartest
But
people
what's
know
wrong,
things.
Professor? Don't you believe in communism? What, you think it's bad? What's wrong with you?
Hell no, because
Come
it
on, all these
controls
college
thought.
students with blue hair can't be wrong. They
Yes,
went
they
to
can
college.
be. Hell no, they didn't go to college. They barely got an education in college, let alone in their previous education through elementary school.
Well, let's call a spade a spade. The reason these people are like this is because of their thinking, not because of the fact that they're in college, but how they're taught to think. And it's all about feelings, not about logic, not about what's right and what, let me rephrase that, not about what's right, but what works and what doesn't work. And the fact of the matter is, and I learned this was far back when I was in grammar school in the 70s, as well as high school in the 80s. Communism, socialism does not work, people. Read a history book, not from today, because they'll tell you the opposite. Does not work.
You can read it from any time in history. There is no proof that communism works since it was written in the 1847 by Mr. Marx.
Is it that far back?
Yeah, of course.
Well, I didn't realize it was that far back. I thought it was in the 1900s. No, that's right. Because who came first? Lenin came first with not John Lennon. Lennon and
no, not
do it, yeah. No, Lenin in Russia, he was a Marxist, but I didn't realize that Karl Marx was. Are you sure it was 1845?
Well, I'm double checking right now, so we have it correct from the audience. He died.
There are photographs of him.
He died in 1883 at 54.
Okay, because there are photographs of him.
He was a relatively wealthy guy that just lived off of the land and off of people, as opposed to the communist that you think he would be. And
I heard that his wife, he used to go out and spend money that he would make on alcohol. When he wouldn't bring home food for his wife and I think a child that he had, and one of the kids died or several of his kids died. He was a scumbag, Karl Marx.
I mean, to say simply, you're not wrong. He was not necessarily a good guy, but he came up with this stupid philosophy that literally has cost hundreds of millions of lives in the last 150 years. But yeah, he died in 1883, and I'm trying to find.
I think it's safe to say that any person who believes in communism, who wants to get to the level of control, like a politician, so to speak, it's all about, they say, well, we're going to make everybody equal and you're going to get paid the same amount. So if you're a garbage man and a brain surgeon, you'll make the same money. Who wants that?
Well,
who wants to be an entrepreneur? Exactly. Who wants to be an entrepreneur for a socialist country or a communist country if you've got remarkable intelligence to be a surgeon? In this case, I'm using brain surgeon as an example compared to, and I'm not saying anything bad about, but somebody who works as a garbage man or a janitor or a cashier in a food store. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you compare that with somebody who's at a higher level of intelligence, who can do greater things as an individual through science, through physics, through the understanding of rationality and science per se. They just, why would they want to be part of an organization of a country that will not give them what they are due when it comes to payment. That's why this country, America, is so great. That's why this country is the country that everybody wants to come here to live. And 14 million illegal aliens that have crossed over into this country cannot be wrong. Let me rephrase that. A good portion of them want to come here for a better life. A lot of them want to come here so that they can start terrorist cells and attack
they've
us from
come
the
here
inside.
honestly to take advantage of the situation. I mean, that is human
And they
nature,
are.
is to take advantage
They
of the
are.
situation. But let me circle it back, because you certainly brought us to a place that where we weren't necessarily before in talking about it.
Sorry.
Illegal immigration, which it is purely illegal for those 14 million. But going back to Mr. Marx, he died in as I said, 1883. But the Communist Manifesto was actually a pamphlet. It wasn't even a full book. And it
Right.
came out in 1848.
Wow.
So it is from that time that these ideas have percolated and propagated around the world.
Was Karl Marx black?
No.
What nationality was he?
He was German born.
German? He was German?
German. He was from
when
Germany.
I see pictures of him, he always seems to be like a dark-skinned man. I always thought he was black for some reason.
Well, all the photography was black and white at that time. But yeah, he
thanks
was
very
born.
Much.
Just to point out,
that. I must have been looking at a negative then.
Exactly.
No,
so yeah, he was born
every time
May 5th.
Picture, May 5th. We just Cinco de Mayo. He was that. Is that his holiday?
He was born Cinco de Mayo in 1818.
Marxist de Mayo.
Yeah. Another reason why we're maybe celebrating Cinco de Mayo secretly, because
Karl
if you
Marx.
didn't know, Earth Day is the birthday of Lenin. So I mean,
oh great, Karl Marx. Fuck you.
There you go. He certainly fucked up the rest of our lives, and certainly has caused the death of hundreds of millions of others. Anyway, we are off topic once again.
Real quick. So yeah, Lenin picked up on Marxist, the Marxist ideology in the late 1800s or early 1900s. I can't remember. And early 1900s with the Russian Revolution, and then Stalin took his place.
Well, Stalin
two scumbags
came into power, yes. And then came the rest of them, yeah. But Stalin certainly caused at least 50 million dead. I think the number
easily.
Is.
Yep. And if you look at all the Mao, the idiot in North Korea, all these countries with the leaders that ran communism, they got wealthy, and the people died.
Wow, you know what's funny about you saying that? Joe Biden. He was poor, and now he's wealthy, and people have died.
And his uncle was eaten by cannibals.
And that's right, in the middle of the ocean, which is really surprising.
In the middle of the ocean.
I mean, I'm sorry. Miles off ashore, the cannibals must have been freaking hungry to go swimming out there. Like, damn, there's some white people out there to eat. Damn,
give me some of that white meat.
Exactly.
Oh my God, yes. What a moron he is. Anyway, so you were saying.
Well, the original point, I do believe, I have to comment on the fact that we've gone from the oil consumption of a cargo carrier to Marxism is just a beautiful route of logic and train of thought. So I hope this segment really goes far for our listeners to understand, we are covering territory.
Quickly, I might add.
As best we can, as we come up on almost 18 minutes, my friend. So just a review real quickly is, yes, it's just an interesting point by the numbers, fuel consumption and the amount of greenhouse gases, if you are concerned about such a thing, as produced by cargo ships as well as oil transports, all of these things. the thing is, if you care about your planet, you want to have all of your resources done locally. You want to have your products, made locally, and you want to have your natural resources, whether it be oil or wind or solar. I don't care where it is. You don't want to import it. Importing your goods is not a good thing for a green planet. So there is the line from that lesson.
I was always under the impression that trade, international trade, not only, and this has been going on for thousands of years, that it not only creates the ability to get things from places that you couldn't produce yourself, but it also creates a connection between you and your neighbor, per se.
And you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Country.
I mean, I'm not going to get real Russian caviar unless it comes from Russia. I'm not going to find that's
what I'm saying.
Colorado. But, when it comes to steel, yeah, we got plenty of resources to create steel here. I don't need to import my steel.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, the same thing with oil. So, I mean, sure, there's plenty of products out there that you want to import because, like, damn, I can't get that around here. But, if to a great degree, most of what you need in life, you can get locally. I mean, we all know that too.
And if I may add, and a lot of people don't know this, when we were self-sufficient, when Trump was in office, and we were self-sufficient with getting natural gas from our country here in our own backyard.
Yeah, from fracking. And
we were the number. Right, we were the number one exporter of natural gas and oil. The number one.
Yep.
But you won't hear about that in the mainstream media. They won't tell you that. They won't tell you that how well that worked for us. If we could continue to do that, we would bring our debt down from, what is it at, 31 trillion, 36 trillion? It's an astronomical number. I mean, you can't even imagine how much money 30 plus trillion dollars is. It's more money than there are people on this planet.
To say the least. You're right. It's more than, and like you said, you can't even begin to imagine it. But that's a whole nother issue. Like, the things that we can't imagine in our life, we can't imagine overcoming. But the thing is that we can overcome the simple things in life, or the simpler things in the way of producing things locally. You brought up an excellent point in the way of how things used to be. We were producing enough for ourselves that we could actually export it. And other nations that couldn't produce enough for their people could actually import it if they want to pay for it. And that's their problem, if they want to pay for it. But the truth is that we are a wealthy nation that can produce and provide for its own population, and we should be doing that. And there's no reason to be spending huge amount of money on cargo ships and other vessels to bring things here. And if you're concerned with green issues,
in addition to the amount, in addition to the billions of dollars that we give to every fucking country practically on the planet, we give money to everybody. And that's why when Trump was in power again, he said, we want to do this to help you, but we need something in return. If we're going to protect you, you better pay us. And he's right. Why we give away things constantly to countries and we get nothing in return? Who are we? What are we, the police of the world?